All right, we are live.
Good morning, everyone. It's V, the Grill Economist, coming to you on a snowy day here in the Northeast with my main man El Cuco, aka CJ. He's backing that airwave up, man. He's backing it up. We're giving you the news, the views, and all the information important to you. Check us out, roguemoney.net. Follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money, Rogue Money, Facebook, Steam, and every single podcasting app known to humanity, and Rogue Money Apple News. Also, check this out, guys. Check out our sponsors, remain.com.net. Remain.com.net. Don't freak out. Remain calm. Whether you need to get your credit fixed, or you need a better credit score, or you just need a credit review, these are the guys to do it and get that done for you. You could also, if you need funding, you can apply for a personal loan or even a business loan and get up to $600,000 unsecured from their lending partners of over 335 lenders. Also, check out thecryptoschool.io, thecryptoschool.io, and that is the place to be in order for you to learn about the wallets, how to move in and out of exchanges, how to make your trades, learn it all, learn to capitalize and leverage the situation. Don't be a victim. Don't be somebody who's a spectator sitting on the sidelines, sitting on your hands. But get involved, learn the tips of the trade, the tricks of the trade, and go on and get some money. With that being said, Siege, what's going on, brother?
Hey, V, good morning. Doing great. Still a great day yesterday at Rogue. Great articles. Yeah. It was fun to have Tatiana with us yesterday morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, man, I'm still pumped up from yesterday. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm just sipping coffee here. It's a bomb cyclone or whatever the heck you want to call it here in the Northeast, but I'm doing my thing like a chicken wing. I could use some chicken wings this morning, bro.
Or chicken and biscuit. That's good to get in the morning. So chicken and biscuit.
Yes, with some honey. Yes, that's what's up. Southern style, baby.
Oh, there we go. That's it. That's it.
Anyway, man, let's get into it, bro.
Yeah, you do it. You take us where you want to go. I think that there's lots of things to discuss, but you started out.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Let's start off with this whole kids thing. Let's talk about how arming teachers and this, that, and the other. We'll touch base on that real quick. I'm just going to run a snippet, and this is going to be a quick thing that I'm going to be bringing up because it is, again, another empirical proof. It's another absolutely unapologetic proof as to what's going on in public education. Okay. DC high school graduation rate to plummet from 73% to 42% after massive fraud revealed. Okay. Far fewer seniors attending DC public schools are on track to earn their diplomas this June after a graduation fraud investigation revealed that 1 in 3 students, hold on, I got to sneeze. Oh, sorry about that.
Bless you.
1 in 3 students. Spring is in the air, bro. Spring's coming. So 1 in 3 students passed high school in violation of city policy. Right. Data released Thursday by DC Public Schools shows that just 42% of seniors are on track to graduate versus 73% in 2017. Meanwhile, 19% of students are considered moderately off track, meaning that they are falling 1 or 2 courses, but could potentially earn a diploma through summer school or credit recovery programs. Even if 19% of moderately off track students receive diplomas, the graduate is still tracking 12% lower than last year. Okay. So basically, what does this all mean? What does it all mean? The article goes on and on and on and on and on with facts and figures. But folks, this is what you find in many school districts across America. Tens of thousands of dollars are poured in to these schools, to these public schools, okay? And very little results are shown for it, okay? So in terms of can we protect our students, the answer is an unequivocal yes, we can. Okay, yes, we can. Yes, we can protect our students, okay? What that means is, see, it's not a lack of funds. There's plenty of funds. Okay, the freaking school districts all over the country, the educational department got another, what, 400 billion we're spending on education, almost 500 billion that we're spending. Massive. It's waste. And what do? We dole out some of the most stupidest kids in the world. Okay, there are kids in the third world that would smoke an American student in math, in sciences, what have you. Okay, absolutely smoke them. Okay, but you don't hear about that, right? It's all about, oh, and then at the same time we're thinking that we're the most educated, smartest group of people in the world. This hubris that we have about ourselves is something that needs to get dealt with because it's not realistic. We have a problem. When you have too much hubris, you tend to overlook your shortcomings. You tend to overlook your problems and your failings. Okay. The whole world realizes this, folks, that we don't have any clothes. So this whole entire thing, okay, when I say we don't have any clothes, I'm talking about the emperor not having any clothes, right? Because we're supposed to be this great, amazing country. And we are. For a lot of reasons, we are. But we're losing that very rapidly. We're in a slippery slope, and something needs to get done. So, do we have funds in order to protect every single public school and regular school in the United States? Absolutely, unequivocally, yes.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a very valuable conversation because I think that that's where it begins as far as the education system. And, my wife's an educator, V, so I'm very plugged into observations, reading, listening, and seeing how a lot of the bureaucrats and how the political process affects educators. And like here in my home state, firsthand experience where the state has spent millions of dollars on testing programs of the schools. And these testing programs, we call it I-STEP, is what they had referred to it here in Indiana. Millions of dollars spent. It's a major distraction to the schools. It slows the process down. They try to implement different technologies. And like in my state, this program, they spent millions of dollars of doing it to discover that there were flaws in the grading process, that they completely had to scratch the whole thing. And now they're spending more money on a new testing program. The amount of waste that occurs from the federal government and then getting it down to the state level, because primarily what they're focused heavily on is testing, which is results. And we know that testing necessarily isn't the best benchmark to be grading the students, right? And then the other aspect of it is the whole implication that the teachers are what's wrong with the schools. In other words, we need to put some type of measurements on teacher observations and the teachers. But fundamentally, where I see the breakdown occur is at the home, V. And I'm not blaming families for that. I think that, families, the mother and fathers both working at school, is that too many times what happens is the parents expect the schools not only become the educators, but also aspects of the parenting as well, where the moment that a child leaves a school, that the whole education process breaks down, at home, and there's no follow-up, there's no evaluation. And you could contribute that to a lot of things, whether it's the breakdown of family and all of these things. So if you complicate, the parenting aspect of school, if you complicate the testing and the teacher, there's a drove of educators that are leaving. And there's not a new wave of teachers wanting to come in because of all the crap that they deal with from the government perspective. So that's something that we have to be very concerned. And even though I just have a snapshot in my state, they're trying to come up with creative programs because the public school system in Indiana, IPS, that's the central part of Indianapolis, they're having to come up with all kinds of creative ways to even get teachers. Like, we'll buy you a house, we're doing this. And it's because of all the bureaucracies, all the things they've put in place that's destroying education. It's the government involvement in education. And that's the struggle. That's the dilemma that just continues to rise time after time again, V.
Absolutely. 1000% correct, man. That is the biggest problem that we have here, is the government involvement in education that just screws everything up. It's so true. It's so true. The only thing they're good at doing is killing and stealing. They're great at it. They're the best. Anything else in terms of educating a kid, they suck. In terms of healthcare, they suck. In terms of making it more beneficial for businesses, they suck. Killing, they're great at it. Stealing your wealth, they're wonderful at it. They're masters of the game. Okay, so this is the problem that we have, and it's just anything these idiots touch, they ruin. Unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings us to the trade war. What's going on over there, Siege?
Well, yesterday, the administration came out and specifically talked about, steel and aluminum, and how the fact that, U.S. Producers over the last significant, several years have lost ground to importing, cheap steel, cheap aluminum, from China, these other countries. So the administration came out specifically, Donald J. Trump in a tweet. Let me close my pop up. I'm browsing and guess, so it pops up automatically. Some of the listeners have tweeted, you need to put a pop-up blocker. So he tweeted out yesterday that when a country, U.S., is losing many billions of dollars on trade with virtually every country it does business with, trade wars are good and easy to win. Example, when we are down 100 billion with a certain country and they get cute, don't trade anymore. We win big. It's easy. And that sent really, shockwaves across, because I don't necessarily want a trade war. I don't necessarily want to see US goods rise in cost by 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is. This tweet reminds me of George Bush. I'm not sure if you ever saw the video, but George Bush,
Yeah,
he went to the grocery store for the first time, and he was amazed that they had these scanners, because he was just he was so disconnected from reality that he was just amazed looking at these scanners. And he's like, you're kidding me. You can scan these things now. You don't have to key in the price of everything. And these scanners had been around like 10 or 15 years. Well, President Trump needs to understand that not every American has the wallets deep enough to go to the groceries, buy furniture, buy household goods for their families. They can afford to go paying, 10, 15, 20% more because of either tariffs or the cost to produce these goods here domestically is so much more expensive, V. And I just don't think it's wise for us to raise this rhetoric regarding, trade wars, and because they're not easy to win, V. You know that.
Trade wars lead to shooting wars. It always has, always will. I can understand some tough measures so we don't have a trade deficit. See, we wouldn't have a deficit if we had stuff to trade, Siege. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't have much of anything to trade. We're just a bunch of slackers. I mean, literally. I think the best example that was given, I think it was Peter Schiff years ago, said this. The world economy, how it was under the U.S. hegemon, was basically this. It's like, picture everybody on the island, and then you got this fat guy. Everybody works to make sure the fat guy is fed. All right, everybody's working their ass off. But then all of a sudden, the people on the other island are like, wait a minute, if I just stop working my ass off and stop feeding the fat guy, maybe I could just have more for myself. And that's what the world's trying to realize. You see, so we're not providing anything. So if we were actually very productive and actually provided things to the rest of the economy, we wouldn't have this. We'd have a fair trade instead of this free trade nonsense. So this is the situation that's happening now. Here's the deal. There's a way of going about negotiating it in the things of, okay, we're just not going to trade. I think that's just tough talk. And I think, the Chinese aren't stupid. They know this is rhetoric. They know this is just tough talk. All right. So what is going to happen is this. If they say, okay, you know what? You want to play chicken with trade. You want to stop trading with us. Go ahead and stop trading. Okay. That affects mostly our economy than anything else. Okay. Because here's the deal. Last several years, everybody else has been decentralizing out of the DOM. Last several years, they're looking at other partners. I mean, you have the majority of the GDP of the world is in the East right now. So stopping the trade with us doesn't really put a damper on anything, So it's craziness, man. Absolute nuttiness.
Right. And then more importantly, there's a chart I just threw up. It shows the actual U.S. steel imports, and it shows specifically the top 10 sources. So, even if the administration is targeting China because of this, we import very little specifically, from China. There's numerous countries that we import, still from. And as a matter of fact, I think when they benchmark it against the actual effects of GDP, it was like less than 0.50% of what's truly triggering it. So I think you have to, come to that fundamental argument, is that, how do we as far as the trade war specifically, is that, it was U.S. companies that decided that it was better to go overseas for cheap labor to manufacture those products. It was U.S. based regulations that sent these companies over to manufacture their items due to all the regulation that occurred. So it's not just an isolated trade issue. It's corporate, responsibility. It's the leverage of the dollar and how we've grossly mismanaged that has led a lot of these companies to do that. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry is a perfect example where the majority of R&D dollars comes specifically from the government to the pharmaceutical industries. They manufacture probably 25 to 30% of those pharmaceuticals overseas in other countries due to cheap labor. And then they charge Americans 5 to 10 times more for those drugs when it's part of the taxpayers' money to help fund some of the research for these. So again, it's numerous factors that you have to take a look at, and it's not easy. It's not an easy, discussion as far as the trade war. But gosh darn it, if we could get the political leaders out of the way and negotiate for some of these things, and understand that we're not going to get to a $15 minimum wage for every industry across the board. And in part, one has to question, the true role of government, to drive business, to drive industry. And I'm a firm believer that the fundamental process with that is to get government out of the way with, regulations, with, the taxes, all those things that occur in order to bring some of those industries and encourage, U.S. manufacturers to begin producing those goods again here in the United States. V.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely right. And this is the problem with Status, man. Status just don't get it. It's pretty funny. Two articles that I'm going to touch base upon really quickly is this. Moscow court rules crypto assets cannot be seized for debt payment. Okay, and people are celebrating that. But here's the real deal. They just simply don't know how. It's very difficult to capture a crypto asset. You encrypt it well enough, you use the right kind of wallets, nobody's going to take anything from you. It's impossible. It's yours. Okay, and this is the problem the states are having, which also brings us to Germany. Germany just put out a law that they're saying that they won't tax cryptocurrencies used to make purchases. Okay, folks, this is the problem that you're seeing a lot of nations and sovereigns throughout the world starting to realize. Cryptos are very difficult to regulate. They're very, very difficult to tax. Okay, here's the deal. You want to learn about cryptos and taxation, go back to the interview that we had with Mr. X, where Frank and I were asking him all the questions about taxation. Okay, there's no regulatory teeth behind any of the stuff that the IRS is putting out in terms of the cryptocurrencies because it's difficult to do. It's difficult to do. What governments and states are hoping that you would do is that you will be so afraid that you voluntarily divulge information about your cryptocurrency holdings. Okay, that's what they are hoping for. Okay, and there's going to be some people that are going to go out there and say, yes, I have $300,000 in Bitcoin. Oh, please, here you go. Here's everything, like a good little slave. And of course, they're gonna pay for it. So those are two big things. And again, time after time after time it goes by, it becomes more and more evident that this is the cryptos are real, they're legitimate, and the states have a rough time trying to control it, which is good for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, CJ, in the land of adults, what's going on here?
I'm going to bring the article up real quick, but I think this kind of alludes to the fact that Iran has officially completely just dumping the dollar altogether. V.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. What may be a preemptive move against further U.S. sanctions? Tehran announced that going forward, merchant purchase orders that are denominated in U.S. dollars will no longer be allowed to go through import procedures. According to the state-owned IRNA news agency, the policy is in line with the official request by the Central Bank of Iran and is meant to address the fluctuations in the market rates of the U.S. dollar. It's more than that. Okay, here's the deal. When you have a country that has broken 1,000,000,001 treaties, when you have a country that it's like dealing with a bipolar uncle at the Thanksgiving Day dinner. Okay, the guy, you don't know what he's going to say. You don't know if he's going to change his mind. or somebody with multiple personality disorder, because that's what it's like dealing with the U.S. Nobody in the U.S. keeps their promise, okay, in terms of on a political level. We backtrack on so many things. So countries are like, Iran's like, okay, you keep calling us the biggest sponsor of terror when that's utter BS. Okay, folks, we all know Saudi Arabia is the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. Okay, we don't call out the Saudis because they're our buddies. Okay, and if we call them out, then this whole entire narrative. Okay, because the most important thing to these people is not the truth. Okay, it's about controlling the narrative. The narrative here is Iran's the biggest sponsor of terror. That's the narrative. Okay, they don't want that narrative to fall apart. So Iran's like, well, you keep calling us out. You keep interfering with us. For the last several decades, you've been trying to interfere with us. We're just not going to use your dollar anymore. Okay, and that's exactly what's happening. And there's no need for them to use the dollar. Look, you cannot sanction any country that is a trading partner of China. What you can put out whatever edicts you want, whatever sanctioning edicts you want, but you're not going to affect them. You're not going to affect them. It's just the way it is. And also look at the relationships between South Korea and China. South Korea understands that if they rely upon the crazy Uncle Sam might put them into a regional conflagration that will be detrimental to tens of millions of South Koreans. And they don't want that. Okay, they don't want that. Why? They're going to seek bilateral trade with China. They're going to seek a peaceful solution to the problems that are facing on the peninsula, because North Korea out of control is a problem not only for South Korea, but it's also a problem for China. They don't need the beef. They don't need the problem. So again, in the land of adults, they're finding solutions other than we're gonna have fire and fury and blow them up and send 10,000 cruise missiles and we're gonna hit them with a nuclear strike. No, okay. North Koreans are willing to trade. They're willing to negotiate, but they are not willing to give up their nukes. They'd be stupid, okay, at this stage of the game. And as repressive as they are, okay, as repressive as they are, they're not stupid. Okay, they're not stupid. That nuclear trump card is what they're holding to ensure their safety. Okay, so that is the whole entire thing here. That is the whole entire thing. So anyway, man, what's up with Putin's speech? And we'll close out with that, bro.
Yeah, just real quick, you made very good points in regards to the trade, the dollar. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, so let's say, for example, that the dollar does lose the world trade, status, the reserve status. So, yes, I mean, that's going to impact all of us here domestically, in the United States, whether it's, potential credit freeze, whether it's, hyperinflation, all those goods, and it's going to impact us. And so you have certain people, I think, militarily that would be willing to, wage war to protect that, right? That hey, you know what, this is gonna, create harm, grief, everything here in the United States. Yep. But then also when you think about it, it's that same mighty dollar that feeds the machine, right? It's what feeds Washington D.C. It's what feeds the Fed, the corruption that occurs, the wealth disparity that we currently see, where 1% controls the majority of the wealth, while 99% of others, middle to lower class, because of the disparity. It's the dollar that's what's protected that. It's the dollar is what's fueled that. And as long as the dollar remains the world reserve currency, we will always have that. It's the same thing with the stock market, the same thing with the cryptos, that less than 10% of the wealth that's in those is control. I'm sorry, 90% of the wealth that's in there is controlled by less than 10% of the people. So in order for us to break that vicious cycle, that's why cryptocurrencies are so important, and can help as far as trade, can help as far as negotiations. But unfortunately, we have to get some adults in Washington D.C. that can truly understand that. It's just it's so disheartening to see. And now it forces what we're getting ready to cover next. Is what it does is it forces people like Vladimir Putin and other countries to really ratchet up their defense mechanisms as far as militarily and their deployment, and talking about new nuclear technologies. Is that the world that we want to live in? Is that the world that we want to leave for our kids and our grandkids? Absolutely not. I'm gonna bring that article up right now, V.
Go for it.
And I'm gonna get the Saker on so that way he can. The insider, the article actually talks about how the Saker is probably one of the most, as far as Russia militarily, is the most intelligent. And so Vladimir Putin gave his, his annual speech regarding, the status of Russia and what they're working on. And the majority of the conversation that Putin spoke about was at the Federal Assembly, and this is coming from the Saker, was that what stunned me and many others are the new weapon systems Putin has announced. First, he confirms that do you want to go through it, V? Because you're a lot more
Go for
okay.
It.
So a nuclear powered cruise missile with basically unlimited range. 2, a nuclear powered unmanned submersible with intercontinental range, very high speed, silent propulsion, and capable of moving at great depths. A Mach 10 hypersonic missile with a 2,000 kilometer range. A new strategic missile capable of Mach 20 velocities.
That's insane.
So the majority of this speech was driven around not necessarily a threat to the U.S., but more than, hey, you know what, U.S., you need to be real careful about what you do, about what your actions, because we have these weapons and we're not going to be afraid to use them. So congratulations, we're back into the Cold War from the 80s.
Yeah, this whole response is basically a response to the schizophrenic, murderous American foreign policy. I mean, you have a foreign policy that's just so stupid. It's like stuck in the 80s, and it can't, get over itself. Okay, this is what's happening. Okay, and it's over. And while the whole Western media is shaking, incompetence will do this to one in their boots from Vladimir Putin's address, and where he demonstrated, among many things, a new RS-28 Sarmat. Okay, which is the monster missile behind the revolutionary weapon system. One was almost completely ignored by the media. Again, education based on catchphrases such as nuclear weapon will do this to one. By far most shocking, albeit inevitable, revelation was the deployment of the new hypersonic missile, the Kinzhal, which is the Dagger, to regular service with frontline Air Force units in Southern military. MiG-31 carries this weapon. I am positive any Su-35, Su-30SM, or 34 will be able to do it. Here's a video of the CGI simulation. The missile, well, for the lack of a better word, is stunning. It's Mach 10 plus, highly maneuverable with a range of 2,000 kilometers. The naval warfare as we know it is over. Without any overly dramatic emphasis, we are officially in a new era. No, I repeat, no modern or prospective air defense system deployed today by any NATO fleet can intercept even a single missile with such characteristics. The salvo of 5 or 6 of such missiles is guaranteed destruction to any carrier battle group. It's over. It's check and mate, bro. It's check and mate. There's nothing left. Wrap it up. Keep it moving. I mean, we can't even build a railgun. We spent like 20 years trying to make the railgun. It went over budget. It can't even fire anything. You can't even put on a boat. China puts a railgun together, slaps it on a boat, and it fires perfectly well. And they did it in less than 5 years. That's the whole entire thing, man. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. So this is what, we're up against, and we have to work, really hard to just, question and push back on the narrative that we need to begin these trade wars, that we need to begin this any more foreign intervention, overseas. And that's something that I, so hope and look forward to with the changing of guard with Donald Trump coming to office, was to be able to scale those things back. So if there is 3D or 4D chess going on in the background, and Putin has back-end connections with Trump, and Xi Jinping has back connections with Trump, I sure to God hope so, V, because on the surface, I'm not seeing a whole lot of that changing of the guard take place with this administration, at least on the geopolitical front.
Absolutely correct, man. Absolutely correct. Now, I feel the same way, bro. I feel the same way. And Steve, that brings us to the end of the broadcast. And what do we got lined up for today, brother?
Yeah, we have a few different interviews lined up. I'm going to get with them to specifically see whether they want to go live, or if we're going to record and later, do it later on. We do have a Rogue Coin interview lined up with a company that launching a new exchange. I do have a interview lined up also with a Rogue 420 interview with Morris Beagle from the Colorado Hemp Company. I think that hemp has a potential. Darn it, if we could just nationally, unschedule, cannabis and hemp. I mean, that industry by far could really help revolutionize and help drive the U.S. economy if we'd realize it. But the Colorado Hemp Company is doing some really cool things. So, and then later on, we have another interview with regarding apps. So it's going to be a busy day at Rogue, and I'll make sure to keep our audience informed as far as any type of live stream or when we'll be releasing those interviews. V. And then also make sure to check out rogue420.net. James, the Russian analyst, worked very hard overnight to get some great articles up from Harley Schlanger. Harley, they're up on Rogue Money I started to say Rogue Money 420. Rogue Money, go check them out. Harley breaks down into two parts Vladimir Putin's actual speech. So go check that out at roguemoney.net.
Absolutely. And with that being said, folks, we're over and out. Take it away, CJ.